People of Reddit, what stupid rule at your work or school backfired beautifully?
Zero tolerance ended shortly after a bully got thrown through a window because if I'm getting suspended for defending myself, I'm gonna make it worth my while. Back in 2014, our HR made a rule people couldn't go to other buildings. We had 3 buildings within a block of each other. All 3 had shipping areas and the warehouse employees had to go to each building to work. We were told to stay at one building. I mentioned we ship out of all 3 who is going to do the work. The genius said, "Oh, it'll be taken care of." Next day, $500,000 shipment didn't go out. The following day, we have a meeting. Why didn't you ship this? 2 days ago, we were told to stay in our building and someone would take care of it. The rule was quickly changed. Required every employee to use electronic time clocks to punch and slash out for work, including lunch. Punching in late or leaving early would cause your pay to be docked and getting a discipline letter. Multiple people wanted to sabotage the clocks, cut the cords, etc., but wiser heads prevailed. Everyone arrived several minutes early and left late, every single day, to avoid getting into trouble. Unfortunately, this created unimpeachable evidence of hours worked. The employer had to pay out thousands of dollars in overtime the first month. The clocks disappeared exactly 5 weeks after they were installed with no notification. Every shift, there's a quota we need to fulfill. And then, even if you do fulfill it, you have to keep working until your 8 hours are up. Cue everyone speeding for 4 hours, having a 3-hour lunch, coffee break, then slowly moving their ass for an hour. No rule about us taking necessary breaks if we're still capable of reaching the quota. Now we're allowed to stop once we're done. I worked at Starbucks for like 5+ years before and during undergrad, and at one point our district manager thought it was a good idea to implement a "just say yes" policy, where we literally weren't allowed to tell the customer no. Lasted for about 3 months, and in that 3 months our unaccounted product and waste went up over 300% because when the POS didn't have a way to punch in a customer request, we had to just do it anyways. We also got complaints from stores in surrounding districts because they had angry customers who were requesting things that were against local food service code and told them that we did it for them at our store. I knew exactly how that policy was going to play out, and I just laughed every time management was freaking out about the problems it was causing. When COVID started, our boss demanded that our entire team sit in on group Zoom calls, even if the topics on the agenda didn't have anything to do with their roles. She felt it would build team unity. Productivity dropped, negative Google reviews came in. Staff became more stressed. When she demanded answers on the next Zoom call, one of my coworkers bluntly said, "Well, I would reply to this woman's voicemail, but I'm stuck on this Zoom call. I am the one who lives closest to work, so if the building alarm goes off overnight, I'm first on the list to get the call from the alarm company." It used to be that if we had good reason to believe the alarm was not an actual break, and we could tell them not to summon the police and ignore the alarm. I can access the building cameras from home. The most common alarm was the cleaning crew, who were always messing up the disarming. Then a sister site ignored an alarm that turned out to be an actual break-in, and the facilities director decided that no matter what, if there was an alarm, we should have the alarm company summon the police, then go to the building, get the police all clear, and reset the alarm. This was a pain in the ass, but rare enough, and I lived literally 2 minutes away. Then we contracted for the alarm company to come in and replace all of our panels and sensors. It was a nightmare process that ultimately ended up taking months, and the whole time there were phantom alarms, sometimes multiple times a night. Each time I had to go out in the middle of the night. I'd prepare the required report, send it to the facilities director, and request to go back to the old process. Each time he said no, we couldn't afford to miss a potential real break-in. After about 3 weeks of this nonsense, I was due for some time off. I was going out of town, and the protocol for that was for me to ignore calls from the alarm company, so they moved to the next person on the list, which happened to be the facilities director. In the 5 days I was off, I must have ignored at least 4 overnight calls that all would have gone to him next. Then suddenly, nothing. When I got back, I was informed that for the duration of the alarm update, we just weren't going to arm the building at all. So much for can't afford to risk a break-in. My spouse's workplace realized they didn't have a policy about sending sexual images or jokes as part of their email acceptable use policy, so they added it. Except they made it a firing offense to send or receive sexual content. I think the intent was to stop people from subscribing to such content. They also said that your access would be immediately revoked until a determination was made. So someone got fired for something else and decided to send their whole management chain a graphically sexual image, then report it using the anonymous tip line. IT got the report, concluded they did indeed receive sexual content, and did as required, suspended all the involved email accounts, including the SVPs. The policy has since been reworded. I worked at a language teaching center where the lessons are pre-planned by the curriculum, and on weekdays we often only have 2 to 3 hours of classes sporadically spread out through the afternoon/evening. The management were pretty chill when I started, and people just planned their lessons in bulk, which basically entailed checking your schedule and printing out the required unit/session worksheets, and just showed up 10 minutes before to deliver the lesson. On weekends, we'd have full 10-hour workdays. Apart from that, we'd have the odd training session or faculty meeting, but otherwise you could basically go home or go do whatever you wanted between lessons. All the provided apartments were within 10 minutes walking distance of the center, so this was pretty ideal. The nice managers left, and the new management were assholes who started scheduling mandatory office hours where we had to be in the center with absolutely nothing to do. There'd be a 12 o'clock staff meeting and my next lesson would be at 4 to 6 p.m., and then 3.5 bullshit office hours in the middle. When we asked them what we should do, they said, "Think about your teaching methods." Basically bullshit dick waving. A bunch of the other teachers starting watching movies on the projectors in the spare classrooms. I brought in my Switch. Some people would just straight up go nap on the beanbags in the reading nook. The thing was, there was literally no busy work they could generate, and soon it was apparent to everyone, especially prospective new students and parents, how unprofessional and awful it made the center look. The managers embarrassingly just stopped scheduling and enforcing these office hours. Back in 2011, a company I worked for had the bright idea to block all social networks because, employees should work instead of slacking off on Facebook. I could write volumes of books on the toxic culture in that place, but the owner/president, who lived in a different country and visited about once every few months, was universally feared by everyone, and a few days before his arrival the whole building went into panic mode. So a few weeks after the social network ban, His Royal Highness shows up, and 5 minutes later half of IT department is scrambling to his office. Apparently there was an issue with the Wi-Fi. Or at least that's what he figured, since he couldn't log onto Facebook. It was fixed in seconds. A few years and 3 promotions later, I make a joke about it with him. Instead of a laugh, I get a confused look. Turns out he still thinks it was some internet problem, since whoever decided to ban social networks didn't have the balls to tell him about it after the incident. Control Freak Boss says, all rescheduling of a lesson with a client should be run through a secretary who will do the room reservation update and keep me updated. Implicit threat. If you let clients reschedule too easily, you are a worthless wimp that I don't want to work with. Old version. Client contacts you directly, you work it out together quickly and inform the secretary of the new date, time, so she can change the room reservation. Boom and done. New version. Secretary receives change request from client, but doesn't know your availabilities. Contacts you, gets your availabilities, sends them to client when she has time, because it's frankly a low priority for her. Clients eventually picks a date and sends it back to the secretary, who sends it on to you. You send confirmation, or calendars often have changed in the meantime due to new circumstances, so back and forth a few times before a new date, time is chosen. Secretary reserves the room for that time date. This chews up so much time that the secretary falls behind with her other work, slowing down the process, which increases the chance of a calendar change obliging another run-through. The new system lasted about 4 days. Then an overloaded secretary went on stress-related medical leave. The workload was shared in equal parts between the other secretaries. So, 3 days later, another secretary went on stress-related sick leave. When the boss tried to reapportion the workload again, he got an immediate face full of "WTF is wrong with you?" And the next-to-last secretary stormed out in tears to go on stress-related sick leave. The new system died right there and then. As the French say, when you chase away the easy way, it will come galloping back. And that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it, and don't forget to comment with a similar anecdote or experience related to the video's topic. Leave a like, share the video if you enjoyed it, and lastly, don't forget to activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our daily videos. Ciao!